the work of intern, all of those works has been handed off to the AI. They'll be getting out of job.
There's not going to be a lot of students.
What happened in the world of AI. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a series of conversations on artificial intelligence and the events surrounding that. We live in a new age now. This week on Jan 20th at 12 p.m., as clock hands joined hands with as respectful greetings for a new era of presidency of Donald Trump. The entire tech world converged to Washington, D.C. We had Sergey Brin, Sundar Pichai of Google, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, the who's who of the entire world. The vice president of China, the foreign minister of India, the ministers from South America, all converged in one room. And even though we talk about AI, we even had Sam Altman in that room. The political environment and the regulations that come about sort of shape the world that we live in. And in a mysterious way, we are sort of handcuffed to the pages of history with this new era, whether we like it or not. So, given that to be sort of the preface on which we begin our conversations and news of the week, we can probably start out with what happened in the world of AI.
Yeah, so some of the topics we're going to discuss are right here. So first, we're going to discuss about how AI is going to replace software engineers. Not entirely, but like mid-level and low-level software engineers who do like repetitive work. And we're going to delve more into super agents, only wearable AI, and why AI progress is increasingly invisible. Also, we're gonna dwell lightly on the H1B as well. So, first things first. I guess you all saw Joe Rogan's podcast on with Mark Zuckerberg, right? So, a very interesting thing that he said on the podcast was Meta and a lot of these top tech companies who are working on AI probably will start replacing mid-level software engineers this year, actually. So,
I think on this, we can probably play his video, and
yeah,
that'll, yeah, this
and
at least the segment in which he talks about this. Yeah. Oh, I think you have to change the settings for the audio, but I think the
it's not
and
audible.
you can summarize it instead while that is happening. Anybody want? Abhisha, you want to take a shot as to what you think is the future of software engineers?
Am I audible?
Yes.
So, as Kiran was saying, the AI has been slowly coming into the world of technology, and it has been it has integrated into the system a lot. So many of the things that were mostly repetitive, like writing the same codes or similar codes, or going through lots of data, as in in what way automation works, it's also being used by the software engineers in the same way. So the work of interns, as I say, all of those works has been handed off to the AI part. And maybe in the near future, the I guess the HR, all the data management, there won't be need of any analysts as sort of. It will be all handed by and powered by AI. And the people who work behind the scenes, like only the higher level managements, like the manager, or the actual connection between the business and the software part of the company, they'll be the only ones who will be offering a majority of the work. So AI might replace the heavy-handed duties, like I can't say white collar people, but the brown collar employees of the software technology world, in a sense.
I think that's one of the claims that is out there, that it will replace some of the, shall we call it, the grunt work, lack of.
Yes, the grunt work. Yes.
Yeah, so the grunt work of what happens in, let's say, software engineering. But the right analogy that someone came up with is from Naval Ravikant on this very topic. And he essentially, I mean, he's a very smart person and a lot of people look up to him. He founded a company called AngelList a long time ago, but he's also known for his aphorisms, one-line pithy quotes on lots of different things. And he essentially pointed out in history that when calculators came about, we didn't stop doing arithmetic. It did replace, let's say, multiplication of 5-digit number with another 5-digit number, a very specific grunt work sort of scenario. But people still learn tables up until 10, 15, 20 in schools around the world, even with calculators for almost like 50 years. So if you think about that analogy, and that's probably, I would say, right now, where I would put my money on, wherein software engineering skills are involved in, I would say software engineering is not just coding, right? It's understanding the problem, taking the requirements, coordinating with multiple stakeholders, committing code, maintaining code, ensuring that there is redundancy in terms of resource allocation. There are lots of aspects of software engineering where coding is a dominant part of the software engineering lifecycle. So coding, a lot of the grunt work of, let's say, mere code generation has the ability of getting replaced, which was not very different from what it was probably like 5 years ago when everybody was looking up solutions on Stack Exchange for every technical solution. So given that to be, let's say, the broader trend, so it's not very different. It's like if you figured out an efficient way by which you can take topics from Stack Exchange and put it onto your code base. So there will always be intermediate steps for which there will be people. So I don't expect software engineers to lose out. There'll be new kinds of jobs and new kinds of, let's say, skill sets that will come about. So I don't think it's bad news at all for software engineers.
Yeah,
Nikhil, Sridhar, you
I'd
want to?
like,
Sure,
I'd like
Avisha.
to add it. This paradigm
But
is very similar to when I wasn't born when the industrial revolution happened,
yeah,
but
no,
I think the
nobody was.
mindset would be the same. Mindset would be the same when the people started to think that they'll be getting out of job, but there will be multiple kinds of different job which will be created, which will have a different sense of work and responsibilities, but at the same time will also give like a really push. There will be a huge growth to the openings available in the market.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I completely agree. In fact, just few decades back when we had a lot of people in a room just crunching numbers, trying to find the premiums for people's insurance based upon their health factors and trying to figure out what would be the right pricing to make sure the risk was, ideal for a company to bear, let's suppose in industry, in the insurance industry. Or if you take up pharma, where we had to do a large, massive amount of analysis to find whether the drug was rightly implemented for the patients. And, there's so many different scenarios where we needed massive headcount to do simple tasks. So the effort was more towards doing number crunching rather than putting time into innovative research and development. Whereas today, if you see, we have tools and softwares that are so widely available that allows us to save a lot of time and put in time and energy where it's the result is much more it's much greater for the time put in. So I believe the future is really bright with respect to how we're going to use AI with effect to our day-to-day lives, our day-to-day happenings. But as far as software developers are concerned, I believe still the unique, innovative thinking, the meaning to why we are doing it will always come from the human mind. But with respect to putting structure into the code and making sure things are, integrated well, and every day the new service comes out, every day a new kind of technology comes out, and it's better to leave certain aspects of integration to the AI system that we built to save us time to work on better aspects of development.
Sure. Absolutely. Anybody else want to chime in and what that might look like?
Okay,
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I just wanted to add on the points like when the ChatGPT first came out, initial days, so everyone was kind of skeptical. It might they were skeptical about their privacy, and like it might be we are providing the input to ChatGPT, it might use in some other ways. But according to me, it takes time for human beings to basically trust on something new. Trust on something new so that they can use it. Like if we look in the American history, so when the train came first during the industrialization, Americans were kind of skeptical. I was reading some article about that. And then as later on it became like easy for them and comfort came with this with the industrialization and trains, they started trusting the trains and the trains became widely. But right now trains are not wide as popular in America, but like in the initial days they were kind of like skeptical, like these are not very good, accidents happen and all these things. So my point being is AI at start, people will be skeptical about this, but as it will advance in the future, they will start trusting it and start using for it for more and more menial and day-to-day jobs. Yep.
To summarize, anytime there is a change, there will obviously be some time that is taken in terms of adapting. But I think having said all that, I don't think the entire question boils down to the magnitude of the change, right? So you talked about carriages to, let's say, internal combustion engine transition, and then trains, things of that sort, right? So it's like, how much is the impact to the broader world? And that is not known. I mean, nobody has any monopoly on that aspect of it, but let's not speculate on that. Let's take up some other topic in terms of what happened in the world of AI.
So I just want to add that I think what's happening is in the long term, what's going to happen is like a market reset. Now, since a lot of people are like just jumping into computer science, I think that's going to shift. The paradigm's going to shift from computer science to maybe something else. I personally think that like in a few years ahead of us, like there's not going to be a lot of students opting computer science. They'll be opting maybe some other subjects. Yeah. So, and what Mark Zuckerberg says is rather than replacing software engineers, AIs and agentic AIs specifically are gonna kind of augment them. So it's gonna give them like an additional set of skill sets and additional set of abilities to do their work. I guess now I can share the sound, so maybe let's just see what he says.
Sure.
Yeah.
AI.
I think this year, probably in 2025, we at Meta, as well as the other companies that are basically working on this, are going to have an AI that can effectively be a sort of mid-level engineer that you have at your company that can write code. And once you have that, then in the beginning it'll be really expensive to run, and then you can get it to be more efficient. And then over time we'll get to the point where a lot of the code in our apps and including the AI that we generate is actually going to be built by AI engineers instead of people engineers. But I don't know. I think that'll augment the people working on it. So I mean, my view on this is like the future, people are just going to be so much more creative and are going to be freed up to do kind of crazy things. It goes back to, my daughter was like playing with Legos before and it kind of ran out of Legos. And then now she can have Minecraft and can build whatever she wants and it's so much better. It's just like, I think it's the future versions of this stuff are just going to be wild. But
unquestionably.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's that. So moving on to the next topic.
Another AI.
I think this year.
So
Yeah, so I think on this, there have been some broader speculations. There has been no mandate in terms of any changes to H-1B or anything on those terms. Right now, at this point, as we speak, we're speaking in the week of Jan 20th. There has been no change in terms of status of H-1Bs. H-1Bs remain legal, and even looking at President Trump's rhetoric yesterday, he's completely fine with legal immigration as long as employers are getting benefited from it. So I don't think H-1B should have any issue as it stands. Maybe there are some issues on the periphery that will get resolved, but that's about it. I think long story short, if you have to summarize H-1B without looking at it, but you can take a look at a lot of the details. H-1B program was started in the 1990s by Bush Senior, and the mandate of the program was to essentially get high-skilled labor from specialized tasks. And over a period of time, the one difference between H-1B and, let's say, green card application in terms of status is there's no country cap on H-1B, as a result of which dominant, people who are specialized in some areas like software, who all come from, let's say, a few countries, are dominant in numbers, as opposed to the green card application, which has a country cap of 7%. So the number of green cards that are issued based on employment and other terms has a country cap of 7%, which ensures that there is a longer waiting time for people who are on legal visas, as opposed to H-1B, which doesn't have a country cap, which creates this long tail of wait times for certain countries like Mexico, China, and India, because these are the countries which export a lot of the immigrant workforce in the U.S. And that's a topic that they'll take up. This doesn't require a huge legislation. I mean, if President Trump wants to change anything on this, he can just do it with a simple legislation on an executive order. It doesn't even need to go through Congress. So that's something that we have to see. But this is something that all the tech leaders want, because there are a lot of benefits of having advanced engineering skills in all their companies. So I think it's something that needs to be seen. At this point, there has been no change in the status of visas. Probably we can go to another topic.
So this is one thing that I came across. I came across this article on Axios, I'm not sure, but so what basically it says that is so OpenAI, Sam Altman, and a lot of other industry leaders are gonna have like a closed door discussion with the government on PhD level super agents. Bear in mind that these agents are not out yet. They're still in development. They just want to do a briefing of what these agents can do to the government.
Yeah, I think in terms of PhD level problems, the one thing that OpenAI is doing quite aggressively, the head of, the vice president of engineering in OpenAI did a podcast such as this with Terence Tao of UCLA, who's probably considered one of the top mathematicians in the world. And he, Terence essentially laid out a roadmap in terms of machine generated proofs. If you have to prove some result, can we essentially come up with new mechanisms wherein a part of the proof is done by some algorithm, and then human beings can navigate that algorithm and work with it to eventually generate a proof. Whether it's possible, whether it is going to have a significant impact or not, that's more to be seen. I read an anecdote from the Indian Institute of Science. There's a professor by the name Y. Narahari, who retired last year, who's a game theorist, who's written a couple of books on game theory, who's like a pioneer in that field. And he essentially said, like, he's been teaching in ISC since 1980s, and his entire curriculum had a huge revamp as a result of utilization of AI as part of the curriculum, meaning like how to prepare notes, how to generate, let's say, notes for the class, and give it as an addendum to students. So these kinds of innovations will happen. Whether it can actually solve PhD level problems, that goes to be, it's not that clear. I heard a claim that was made on Y Combinator's video, wherein, physics prize was given to Geoffrey Hinton for his work on neural networks in the 1980s, and chemistry prize was given to Hasabi, John Jumper, and David Baker's lab. So they're saying, like, AI essentially transformer models, not the entire field of AI. Transformer models specifically have won these two awards. So she went on to make a claim that probably AI is going to take over all of sciences, which might be possible. Biology, there might be some problems that AI can help facilitate, but it's not that obvious. It doesn't mean that there's no research. It just means that there's a new tool, and people, sciences of all kind, will use these new tools to essentially solve problems. It's like computer aided. It's like people figured out how to do simulations on a computer for the very first time. Obviously, it's going to augment lots of activities that people already do, but there will always be researchers doing great work. Any thoughts you guys want to share on this?
Oh, I feel
I
it's
think
absolutely great that, the thought of artificial general intelligence is coming to, let's say, at least coming closer to life. It's something quite interesting. We have been waiting for this along with flying cars for a very long time, let's say. But again, it depends upon, how we train the models that these AGIs are built on, these advanced super agents are built on. We could have conversations that make it easy to interact with them rather than just having a typing input, or rather than having just a single way of interacting with these systems. It's good to have a more human-like, natural interaction, because end of the day, language and communication has to be natural. That's a great progress with AI, but I believe how they train the systems and how they fix the bias and how they make sure that the way they train these models to be fair to every query that comes in, and it's something that I guess we will see based upon over the long run, whether it is useful to us or is just an extra gimmick and something that is just fun to try out but not that useful, because end of the day it's researchers and people who have spent a lot of time in a subject that can have thoughts and feelings that could help to build upon complex topics rather than just have machines help us with those ideas. So, hoping for the
Yeah, I
best
think
of this, but
Yeah, sure. So I think in all research problems, the fundamentals of science doesn't change. I mean, ideally you have to come up with a question, and I think science is as much about coming up with new questions as opposed to just merely answering the ones that are already there. Answering the questions is just as important, but coming up with questions is as important. So whenever, I think I had this anecdote. I heard this anecdote from one of the physicists who said, like, a student usually comes up to me and says, "What kind of research problems are you working on?" And the students sort of expect that the senior researcher would give them a bunch of problems to solve, which might be a case with some of the researchers, but the researcher had a retort on that question saying that if I had a research problem, I would have solved it, I would have published it. So what's the point of discussing? So the idea being the point of finding a new research problem is part of research, right? If the problem is already known, and this assumes the fact that if you already know the problem, you can probably solve all the problems, which need not be the case. So so finding up with the summary being, you have to come up with new research questions and then solve them using the tools that are available. So that's a long pending discussion. But going back to Sam's actual tweet, that they're not building AGI yet, they haven't even had a design. So this speculation, which usually happens on any new technology, that AGI is sort of due next year or next month, is sort of overblown, which is the point. I mean, so he's saying basically cut your expectations. They're not building anything right now. There are some abilities that these transformer models are good at, but we don't know the limits of it and how far it can go and things of that nature. And I don't have anything intelligent to say on it either.
I think since the beginning of December, there's a lot of traction for this agentic AI. I think in the earlier sessions we discussed about how you can talk to Chat GPT now. You can just call up Chat GPT, or you can have a virtual conversation with it on the app. So I think a lot of traction goes to this AGI this year. I think AGIs are sooner than later, AGI is gonna replace menial jobs, like if you're in a customer service, something like that.
I think it's more of a convenience than anything, but still, you might not dismiss it as mere convenience, right? All of human knowledge is essentially retrieval of knowledge from some database. So you think of some concept and you want to just write it down. You're essentially querying a bunch of databases, which this tool does efficiently. So if you're looking at a machine learning paper and you've come up with a term and you just take a picture of, let's say, the equation or the term, post it on, ChatGPT, it'll actually tell you and explain to you in great amount of detail as to what this, let's say, the equation ought to represent in the broader theory and what's its application is. That kind of connection between, let's say, taking one concept from just an image to the entire, connecting it to the entire framework, defining each terms, that is a huge upgradation in terms of how we educate people. So I think the biggest impact that it'll have, and probably it'll have impact on lots of different things, but the biggest impact I see it having will be in the field of education, where people educate themselves on various topics.
So this is very interesting. They banned TikTok and they sort of unbanned it, I guess. We can delve more into that. I think all of you already know what happened, but for the viewers, let's just summarize it, I guess. So on Jan 17th, they banned TikTok. Like by ban, I mean you could still use it if you had the app, but on Appstore, if say I wanted to download it, I couldn't download it. Even now, I don't think you can download TikTok. So that's like a weird thing going on. The way they ban things here is a bit different, I guess. But so what basically happened was they told you gotta like dilute your shares like 50% US owners so that the app can be legal in the United States. They had like some security concerns since the app is from China. Yeah, but unlike India, I guess India where they just outright banned all these Chinese apps. US is taking more of an advanced approach to this, and more like employers are there and employees they don't want to ruin the jobs. And from that point of view, I think this is a good thing that they gave an extension. I think it was a 90-day extension to restructure the company so that 50% is owned by US, like US.
Yeah, I think on this, I looked at the case that was filed. It was an appeals court judgment that came out, which basically ensured that the executive branch in the US has the legal capacity to ban an app based on two parameters. The two parameters that the appeals court considered, which was upheld by the Supreme Court, was data localization and content moderation. The data localization has got to do with the fact that the US data of US users remains in the US. That ensures that there is no backdoor for the TikTok company owned by ByteDance, which can be coerced by the Chinese Communist Party or anybody in the Chinese leadership to share, let's say, personal data of US users. So data localization was one big topic that the Supreme Court discussed. The second topic was change in content, meaning can this be militarized in a manner in which you can change the content to expect an outcome which is more suitable in terms of negotiations in the future. Let's say if they didn't come up with a scenario, this is something that I thought to myself. If there is a scenario wherein they don't like a certain politician in the US, let's say the owners of ByteDance don't like certain politician in the US, they'll run ads against them, and they can increase the momentum against the opposition or through the opposition to ensure that that candidate is losing the election. Something of that sort, wherein they don't want a non-American actor playing any role to change content to suit their own needs. These are the two big issues. And they felt like all content is moderated. So the case that the lawyer for TikTok essentially made the case that all TikTok does is look for where there is interaction in terms of users using the app and supply that content to those users. So the standard toolkit for recommendation engine that TikTok uses is no different and is very similar to Amazon, YouTube, and any of the tech players. that was the case that TikTok made, saying that we don't do anything different than any of the tech players that exist, which the central, the final, let's say the statement, or let's say the final preface on which they decided the case was executives still had the leeway to make a ruling where some sort of national security concerns are put forth. They can still essentially rule in case of the executive. So as I was saying, the entire issue of TikTok boiled down to two issues: data localization and content moderation. And the ruling that they had was executives still have the right to essentially use national security as one of the concerns based on which they can ban any corporation. And the latest speculation is the TikTok is worth close to $1 trillion, which I don't know if there is worth $1 trillion. If it is worth $1 trillion, it's probably like top 10 companies in the whole world. If it is worth $1 trillion, then if he in the 90 days, if it is not sold to a private party, it's worthless. So from $1 trillion to worthless, that's like a huge transition, and nobody wants that to happen. So even the Chinese will just yield and make a sale to one American party if the price is right. And then if somebody offers $1 trillion, TikTok will be sold to an American party, and everybody's interested in owning $1 trillion asset, which is unique, and there are no competition. There are no competitors.
So yeah, moving on, there's this new wearable AI device. I mean, there's been a lot of them in the market in the past, and a lot of them get a lot of hype and just dropped off. But this is something very interesting. Like, I've worked on this tech before, like a BCI. So this is like a sticker that you put on your forehead, or you can wear it as a locket. So their first release, what they've done is you can wear it and it listens to your audio and the audio around you. And it's like an assistant. It helps you out if someone's talking in, let's say, French, then it recognizes that and it translates it for you. So what they do is they listen to it, the device listens to it, and on the app you get like an interface, and the AI just tells you what's going around. Like if someone asks you a question, the AI will search it up, look it up, and give you results for that. I think if we look at the video, maybe that's it. I'll just start the video, I guess.
Ivan Pavlov. Ring a bell? Unconditioned stimulus. Anyone? Who can tell me what the conditioned stimulus is?
Merci. Tu es mignon aussi.
Nicholas, care to elaborate?
The conditioned stimulus was the ringing of the bell, which made the dog salivate even in the absence of food.
Nice, dude.
Cool. Can you make a deck?
We're gonna be here for a while, guys. Perfect timing. We're about to call Bill.
Actually, I already closed the deal this morning.
Really?
I know you had a long flight, so I'll make this fast.
Grandma! Grandma! We're here!
Oh, my darlings. You guys want some spaghetti?
Yeah!
There's actually a great spot down the street if you want to check it out. I can call a car.
I got it already.
So this is a company from San Francisco, I guess. It's like a really tight-knit small company that's been doing this. I mean, there are a lot of big companies doing it too. There's Plot AI, there's your Google
Just
Pixel
to
Watch.
understand the technology, does it answer back? I understand that it's an audible device that hears your audio, transcribes it, but does it answer back? Because I didn't see that in the video.
No,
Did it?
it doesn't answer you back. It answers you back from an app.
Oh, okay. So I think, see, I know this hardware space like reasonably well. There have been a lot of attempts in this space to have an additional device in a different form factor. We're dealing with what has happened since 2007, since the advent of iPhone, is that there's only one form factor, which is the smartphone. And people have been trying to come up with another form factor which goes as, let's say, a complement to this device. And the only thing that people have done, or before, so it was slightly before and after, was like the tablet. There's been no other form factor wherein people are willing to wear on their body. And these attempts of by lots of different companies, probably I can name probably at the top of my head, like probably about 10 of them who all have come up with some very niche use cases. But if you can do something with your phone, the chances of you carrying all this and that becoming a cultural phenomenon, what they're trying to do is essentially trying to change consumer behavior in the masses and hoping that it will catch on. And I think that's a very hard thing to do in the hardware. So it's almost impossible. I think this is almost an impossible device. Even if you give it for free, people won't wear it. Forget about selling it at $50 I think the only way you can make this work is like pay money to make people wear this. And also, eventually, if you do that, it still doesn't make the sense wherein within 7 years. So if you come up with any new product within 7 years, you have to break even. Because what that means, if you have to put in, let's say, 100 million or 500 million, you have to break even within 7 years. Otherwise, it doesn't make any viable sense for any business to operate as a business. So given all that, and hardware is all about supply chain optimization. You have to figure out how you optimize supply chain. And the greatest proof for this is this Indian company whose founder is one of the hosts of Shark Tank. I forget his name. Aman Gupta, is he? I think his name is Aman Gupta, who made this the headphone. I don't know the name of the company.
Boat, perhaps.
Boat, yeah. So the way that grew, there is no innovation in. Is it Boat? BOAT?
Yeah.
Yes.
So there is no innovation in Boat. The trajectory of that company is like they did like 1 million in the first year, second million. The second year they did 10. Next year they did 100. So it just moved in an exponential pace, even though there is no innovation in terms of technology. There's no innovation in terms of, let's say, user interface, but they had a brand and they knew how to go after a market, which was sort of segregated and unorganized. And usually, and I think doing that in India is it's a different ballgame than doing it in the US, wherein you have to come up with something new and make that viable. Because Meta, if you think about it, in 2021, 22, they spent $10 to $20 billion a year making the metaverse a reality. $10 billion every year, or $10 or $20 billion every year to make that work, wherein they had the glasses and the whole metaverse, and it failed. So money is not the reason why hardware fails. The money, I mean, it has to be the consumer has to take that in, and I don't think you can predict all this. This is destined to fail. Like if I have to just look at it from my point of view, there's no alternative universe in which this succeeds. Even if you give it out for free, forget about making money, because what you can you can take the device and you can take your mobile phone and still record the entire conversation. So unless you answer back, that was one marginal benefit. If it could answer back with high amount of fidelity in terms of voice, and people able to recognize the voice that is coming out of the device, then it's a huge. I think there is a use case for something like that. But if without the device answering back, I mean, there is no use case.
I think
that's the same reason. The way to think about these kinds of emergent technologies is like, think of why neural networks failed in the 90s. There just wasn't enough data to train on. And there just wasn't enough data because the form factor by which people consume data and input their data just wasn't there. The computers had not taken off. The personal computer revolution only took off in the 90s. If you think of Windows, so the operating system which made personal computers what it is, came out in 95, which was the biggest let's say, operating system release. So, and then because Windows didn't happen, the AI couldn't take over because nobody's inputting so much data. Now, because of personal computer revolution and the internet revolution in the late 90s, personal computer revolution enabled the internet revolution. And the internet revolution enabled, let's say, the smartphone revolution. So we have to figure out what waves we are on. Right now, we are all on the AI revolution. We still don't know who's going to make all the money. Attention is all you need. Money is all. Pay attention to who's making all the money, and only one company is making all the money, which is NVIDIA. Nobody else is making any money in AI. Everybody is a loss maker. So still early days. This feels like 1999 in terms of, let's say, internet. Analogy to internet, this seems like 1999. Nobody really knows what's real or what's not real. But anyway, this is a great attempt, and if they can do what Steve Jobs did, they probably will succeed, but probably they will not.
Yeah,
But what do you guys think?
there have been a lot of companies that try to do it. I don't know the name. There was this AI company that also made a wearable AI. So it's like a brioche or something that you wear on your shirt, and that would do similarly the same thing what they're attempting to do. But what stands out for this company is that they're saying that they're gonna in the next release they're gonna enable BCI. So
what is BCI?
BCI, brain computer interface. Okay, so people who don't know
brain computer interface. Okay.
So what BCI is? So there's brain waves, all right. Your brain emits a lot of waves, and there is a way to kind of capture that. So usually how it's done is there are multiple electrodes all over your head. Like they place electrodes over your head. There's like a direct contact between your scalp and the electrode, and the device sort of picks up your EEG. I guess you guys know what EEG is. So using that, so whenever you do an action, let's say you do a jaw clench or eye blink, the readings in the EEG changes. So using that, you can. A lot of people do that, like tracking EEG. I've worked on that like a couple of years back. So you can, sort of figure out what the person is doing just using their EEG. So in advancements to that, this company wants to, read your thoughts basically. So reading EEG is that's like the basic thing. You blink your eye, there's a change in your brain wave. You clench turn your head around, there's a change in your EEG. So using that, this company wants to basically read what you're thinking. I don't know how far that's true. I mean, there have been attempts to, read your brain waves and, do all sorts of stuff. There's also a guy on YouTube. He used EEG to, control games like GTA Vice City. Like, you can just, it's an open source GitHub program. You can just check it out. You can still do it. But yeah, that's about it.
On this topic, I would want to hear all of your point of view because I know what I'm going to think about this, but I think my point is irrelevant. I want to hear what you will think about it because you guys are the new consumers who will decide this. Not that I won't, but I think I'd love to hear what you guys think of a device like this.
So I have a couple of points. So, well, it's a fascinating device, nevertheless. But what we need to understand is how much are users willing to share their personal, with respect to the different impulses in the body or with respect to different signals. First of all, we need to see the wearable industry is a very difficult industry to, make profit. Of course, it's all about margins and scales. And obviously, after 2007, after the launch of the iPhone, the next big, everyone wanted that third device, which would basically, cater towards the mass industry and make a good source of revenue for large tech companies, which, dwell in hardware. There's the smartphone and there is the personal computer. Then, there has been ventures in iPad and other devices. I would say post Steve Jobs, the CEO of Apple, when Tim Cook came into that place, the device that he worked upon was the Apple Watch, which was obviously that one big invention which he worked upon, which his team developed and designed. So post that, there have been incremental updates and incremental changes, but fundamentally what the watch does is it is a device which people wear. They take it with them everywhere. It's supposed to not cause any side effects to the health, but at the same time collect useful data and provide, emergency. If let's say your elders wear it and they slip, you would probably get a notification. Or if you're in a loud environment and it's not good for your health, it'll give you a warning. Decibels are very high. Such things are okay, but there comes a fine line where people are okay with sharing certain types of signals, information. Maybe they're not fine, but again, software is a field where distribution is very easy. It's very affordable. It's simple to make software adoption in the large scale. But in hardware, it's very tough, as we just spoke, to make adoption a massive thing. Even if, let's say, we pay someone to use this device, they would probably fancy it for a few weeks, but then 2-3 weeks down the lane, it may not be the essential product that they're going to live by, right? So while it could have uses in the medical industry, perhaps maybe few other industries, but for an average Joe, I believe the smartphone and the personal computer would still be the go-to device to use, only because the necessity of such a device may be limited to very few instances. So that's my take. And of course, making profit in the hardware sector, accepting probably NVIDIA chips, is questionable, because today the whole world is on the AI race and they want to make sure that, they can, have chips that are the size of a small wafer but can do supercomputing process, and everybody is on a race to have the most compute process and resource to run the company. But apart from that, the hardware industry is quite tricky. Companies like Intel is facing issues with their budget, and they're having big slash cuts on their revenue, and probably Apple surviving only because there are loyal fans, and at the same time they produce good quality devices. But yes, the hardware semiconductor industry profit margins are tight. So let's see
I
how this
think
device does.
I think this is a phenomenal take. The way you summarize the entire thing, the industry, the margin problem, the hardware issue. Yeah, this is a phenomenal take. I mean, that's the more educated take, but I want to hear if there is any other takes which is like sort of on the margins, not accepted by the status quo, but might become the next revolution. Because all the revolutions are from not status quo points of view. So anybody else wants to chime in? Abhisha or Nikhil?
So when I heard, I don't have a different point of view. I'm welcome to all the new technologies that are emerging, and I'm really excited about it. When I saw the video about OMI, I immediately thought about another project. It was from a company called Rabbit R1, and its claims were very similar to what OMI suggested, or OMI is giving the confidence about. So it was marketed as this general assistant, and it could do anything from ordering you food or translating dynamically. It was just like a personal assistant, and it was crowdfunded. So the people who were really interested in technology, all the famous YouTubers that you could think of, all the people who are really into the technical field, but not really connected to it in the technical aspect, they were really into it, and they all promoted and contributed to this crowdfunding. And when it was finally released, it could only do the minimum and the barest of things it advertised to. So just like basically ordering from DoorDash, basic translations, basic monitoring of your health, and that's it. So it was a very big disappointment in that field. So I think, as you suggested, OMI will also be somewhere along the similar lines, because people are really, really worried about the aspect where these technological wearables are intruding into their personal life and collecting all the data. So the major thing now would be, I mean, many technological wearables, they're gathering data, but there's no, like a marking stone for the people to believe that these data is not being given to others. So if there is any technological advancement which can make sure to the people that your data is safe, it's not going anywhere, that's when these wearable technologies will get a boom in their market field. So until then, it's going to be just like a short growth of as you said, excitement and wonder about that project and the product, but then it'll be like a big scale down to just getting like minimum sales.
I think you have to recognize Apple worked on their smartphone project. What they figured out technologically is like if you can do an UI with your hands, And that was the big thing back then. They were using palm point, there was a, what was it called?
Palm tops.
Palm tops with pens and stuff. That was the technology at the time, and they worked on it for close to about 8 to 10 years before they figured out you can actually do it through fingers, which is more intuitive and natural. And that was one big innovation that Apple contributed to, and they were very sure privacy of their customers was paramount. There was, even if there was a case which became very famous. There was a known terrorist who used Apple devices, and Apple refused to, share their encryption with the government. That proved and reinforced this belief that Apple is a privacy-first company, which reinforces the brand loyalty across the world. And that's the only player which can do hardware. And we'll see how that goes. I mean, Apple also wanted to do cars, then they stopped that project, or the Apple car never came out. Maybe Tesla wants to do some sort of a device, and they went on it, and probably they didn't come through. So these are all, hardware is hard. The hardware is not for small players. The way it is structured, the supply chain, the number of parts that you have to procure from various parts of the world, it's just not a place for small players unless you come up with some huge design altogether.
I think the only company that's doing well in terms of trying to enter two markets is Xiaomi. I don't know if you guys know this.
Yeah.
They're really good at it. I mean, they make phones. I used to use a Xiaomi phone for a long time, and now all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they just come out with a really good car, like a really good segment of cars that in the Chinese market competes with Tesla. And in some sorts, it's better than a Tesla. I think that's one interesting thing that also, I don't know why, but Chinese companies have like a bad reputation. Like when you see the car, it's really good, but since it has that Chinese mark, people tend to, shy away from all of that. Even though
I think that also got, China is great in production. They've figured out, give us some plan and a blueprint, they will know how to, organize their entire country around that product. And I think there are entire cities wherein the supply chain is geared towards ensuring that the parts are properly procured. So I think China is great at manufacturing. They've done this over 30, 40 years. And every year they keep getting better at reducing the average cost of any produced good. And people say, like, when you bring down the cost, doesn't it hurt the producers who do it? So what happens in terms of economics is, like, when you bring down the average cost of any good, the eventual consumer gets a surplus from having saved the money, and that's a real saving for the consumer. He uses that money for something else. So when you bring down the prices, it feels bad for employees who are working in that industry, but the eventual trajectory is to give surplus to the consumers. The surplus that is created by real savings as a result of lower cost of that product, and the consumer gets to use that money somewhere else. So I think China has figured that out. I don't know if there is any solution, because right now the Chinese cars which do come to US have like 150% tariff or something like that. So if a car costs $5,000, and if it has to land in US, it will probably cost like $15,000, $15,000. So which makes it unattractive, which is the whole point of the tariff. But we'll see how it goes.
One point about this, like the wearable devices that I wanted to point out, like as a consumer of like right now, I have too many accessories, right? I want to carry here and there when I go. So people tend to, as a consumer, they want a single universal device so that they don't have to carry multiple things when they are going out. So I think most of the time why wearables or something, some accessories, hardware, they don't work out, because they are working for a specific task, not like multiple tasks. So why mobile devices have been like working out since long time, because they can carry out multiple things that we want in our day-to-day life. So one point I just wanted to point out, although it's like the Omni that I like, after watching the video, it's working very good. The technology is very good. But as a consumer, I feel it's one another addition to our accessories that we are already carrying every day. Yep.
So I think what you're trying to say is what currently this company is doing can literally be like an extended feature on Siri or something like that.
Yeah. Plus,
Yeah.
if they can work out with integration with the already accessories that we have, like either the smart watch or the mobile phone, then they can scale up good.
I think the only unique thing that this company has is BCI. Apart from that, everything that this device is doing, I mean, I guess Siri or OpenAI can do it.
Think of that BCI use case, right? How big the market is for BCI?
It's very niche. Right now, it's
It's a
very
very
niche.
small one, right?
Yeah.
It's like a medical care or something like that, or if you're working on schizophrenia or some medical use case like that, right? Unless that is the case, it's not a mass market product yet, and there's no mass market value that's been communicated to a point wherein people feel like using this will make their life better. That value has not been communicated yet.
But the use case for the Omni, like it was reminding things here and there, that I feel is very useful. But I don't want to carry one extra accessory. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it's just can be a feature. You don't have to
Yeah.
wear a device for that. Also, BCI is really hard to do. I don't know how they're reading thoughts and all of that. There's a lot of variations in BCI. Like each person has a different strength of their EEG. I don't know how that works, but yeah. Okay. Anyways, moving on.
Just to take on this, while hearing this conversation, I thought that most devices find it very difficult to launch commercially in the market due to so many reasons. Around 10, 15 years back, I would say 10 years back, we had a fascinating venture from Google's DeepMind, if I'm not wrong, for Google Glasses. That was at that time such a huge hype, and everyone was thinking it's the next big device that's going to be a partner to our, while we wear our shoes and our clothes, that's going to be the next thing that we're going to wear and we're going to head out of the house. Everyone was thinking that way. But also, while Google launched the device, I guess the timing was not appropriate. They were at that time still new to their TensorFlow model. They were new to different hosting services. They were not commercially launching their machine learning, deep learning expertise in an open source manner. So while they had inbuilt applications designed by Google that worked pretty well, the integrations with third-party applications became very limited. I would say when it comes to devices success, it's all about the App Store. It's all about how many people are onboarded to your application to be available in your platform. If your platform doesn't have applications, then your platform is not going to be successful. It's all about the services you offer apart from your default services. So it's all about timing, I feel. And the reason why Apple's able to come up with such great products is because it's not like they design every component of the device by themselves. The displays come from Samsung, and the cameras come from Sony, and their modems and wireless chips comes from Qualcomm. And even the first iPhone didn't, if I'm not wrong, didn't have a proper they didn't have the most sensitive display. It's just that their predecessors didn't have a multi-touch display. Touchscreen was already invented at that point. There were different devices that was working with stylus, but Apple went a step ahead and said, hey, I'm going to introduce multi-touch display. This is going to be a more natural way to interact with the devices. So all these incremental changes make sure that people adopt your technology, and then it becomes a viable product in the market. So while there are unique aspects to certain products like Omi, it's all about how well you integrate different aspects and make sure that each part and each component is tried and tested, and there is a use case for it. So put together, it will be a successful product if all this, along with modern day TPUs and on-device ML, is integrated, then the product is possibly poised for success, is what I feel.
But what's the position of Omi? Like, how old is it, and have they sold, or is it like
It's a fairly new company. That's what I get. If you can look it up. Not sure. Yeah, I don't think they've put it out. Yeah.
See, they got like 4,000 stars on GitHub. So it's like, it's like reasonably well known amongst the developer community, but not like, it's not like 40,000.
I feel like it's a concept that's still yet to be,
Yeah.
widely accepted, or
Yeah.
people
Order
haven't
now,
caught
just go
on
to
to it.
order now.
It's like $89, I guess, or $69.
Kickstarter. Oh, okay. So that's a way by which you can finance something like this over a period of time. But I think you can do a lot of things in software and succeed rather than doing something so complicated in hardware. Yeah, we can take a look at it some other time. We'll keep watching, every few weeks we'll just watch what happened to Omi.
That's a good idea.
I mean, we should probably do
Ivan
what happened to
Pavlov.
Rabbit's R1, right? We should probably take a look at what happened to those founders. And I think there were a couple of founders like that. R1 was one product. There was another product which was like a watch that you wear and you can project some light on it. And it was super complicated. I was thinking, like, how did they even think this would be viable? But anyway, you need some crazy imagination. So you need some level of craziness at the same time. Because what you're looking, when I say craziness, what I mean is like marginal idea. It's not in the normal distribution. It's like, on the extreme end, and hope that over a period of 5 or 10 years, that extreme end becomes the norm. And it's hard to predict, hard to predate the plot, so to speak. AI progress is increasingly invisible. So what's the
Yep. So
who wants
it's
to summarize what that is?
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting article that got published in Times. So it was like around how AI progress is increasingly invisible. Basically, so what does invisible progress here means is that it's about AI moving away from flashy breakthroughs like chat GPTs or self-driving cars and becoming deeply embedded into systems we don't typically, like consumers don't typically know about, directly interact with. So it's AI working quietly, making industries more efficient without us, like normal consumer, noticing. So in like November, the co-founder of OpenAI said that we are not like the AI progress is slowing down, explaining that simply scaling up AI models was no longer delivering proportional performance gains. But if we talk about like normal consumers, like who are not developers or who are not into tech backgrounds, they don't know that like AI is still scaling up in the back end. Like let's say we talk about the supply chains, for example. AI predicts demand, optimizes delivery routes, and reduces the cost for all these things. We as consumer don't see this, but it's a massive transformation happening behind the scenes. So this shift from visible to invisible AI progress is not just fascinating, it's redefining how we as a future data scientists will or AI engineers will contribute to the field. And let me give another example. Let's say we as a banking consumer, we do multiple transactions per day, right? So behind that, to analyze the fraud transaction or something, flag something tricky happen, AI detects that fraudulent transaction and flags it to the consumer and both bank. That's also AI working, but we like normal consumers don't recognize it as a big thing. But people working in the software tech or AI, they know how big this achievement is. So to further talk about this, I think Raghav, you can take over.
Thank you, Nikhil. So let's see why AI progress is becoming invisible, at least to the average eye. A big reason is that the technology, let's say, is maturing, right? Companies are now focusing on back-end improvements. There's already a lot of big flashy name tools that have launched, but we are now focusing on using AI to optimize existing systems rather than creating entirely new products or end-to-end systems. For instance, we have recommendation systems on platforms like Netflix or Amazon, right? They use AI to deliver highly personalized suggestions. It's so seamless that we don't even think about it. It just works. And in healthcare, for example, AI helps improve diagnostics by analyzing vast amount of data. This provides better insights for doctor. Even before a patient steps into the doctor's room, the doctor already has an entire record of what is up with the patient. How can we better help them? What kind of recommendations will best be suitable for this person? So again, all this happens quietly. It has a huge real world impact, but an average person will not see it because it doesn't come up in the flashy news that we are so used to. And for us as data scientists, this means a shift in focus. Instead of just creating new AI tools, we need to think about how to integrate AI into existing infrastructure. That is very important. We need to build the scalable systems, and we need to focus on solving very specific user needs. Since we are in the meaning business, it is important to see what this means to an average person. How can we better cater towards their needs? So I would say the key takeaway is the AI's most significant contributions might not always be visible to us, but they are reshaping industries and improving lives, in a much larger scale that we can imagine. So it's exciting to think about how we can be a part of this invisible revolution over time, and time will tell how complex and what kind of large scale this is going to move forward to.
At this, I mean, this is a, I mean, basically what people are saying is not a lot of the revolution is B2C, it's happening B2B, as a result of which we can't say. But if you have to wrap up on a quick rapid fire question, what is that one thing that you want AI to do that it's not doing right now? Like if you have one wish and each one is different, what is it, that one operation that you want AI to sort of do? It can be silly to AGI level. What do you guys think? Like, you want to take a shot?
So sorry, as a student, I would probably say with all the busy schedule and with everything happening around me, if it can cook a meal for me, that would be great.
Hey, that's already doing it. It's just expensive. There are devices that.
So that's a good answer. Somebody needs to cook a meal and deliver it too, because cooking and delivering is two different operations.
Yeah.
Cooking and delivering.
Okay, what I want AI to do is, optimize like bus schedules or like train schedules here in Boston, because sometimes it's late, sometimes the bus is here, it's not there. I mean, also specific to Northeastern, I think Northeastern, since it's a university, they need to use AI to, optimize their red eye routes. Like the route red eye follows is, I don't know what they're using, it's just bad. Like I will pass through the same road that my house is on, but he won't drop me. He'll maybe go back to college, take another route, and then takes like an hour to like come home.
Yeah,
so
I think you're talking about the red eye shuttle. It's like a shuttle service.
Yeah.
I think you can probably build an app for it and make them give that app to them, and you give the admin rights to them so that they'll update it. You can actually do it because there is enough.
I didn't try to like apply for a position there. They just didn't apply. So yeah, that's that.
Yeah, let's get to that rapid fire question each one. So which other things that you want AI to solve? Which one of your problems?
For me,
Nikhil, Abhishek?
yeah, for me, I would prefer if they like some AI system can help us get the early appointment to the like doctors and hospitals. So if you get an appointment, it's like you are so lagging behind. Like some people are always like already have booked, and you have to get the appointment after 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So I'm like, right now I need the doctor. What will I do after 3 weeks if I get the appointment? So something.
So you want the scheduling of doctors? Is that
scheduling? Not the scheduling. Basically prioritizing the need of the patient.
Okay, that's interesting. What about you, Abhishek?
So I have a lot of things that I handle, and it's very difficult for me to get zoned in. And I would really love AI to have like take this entire field, come to this field, and help people just completely focus on one thing, because the mind is. I mean, there are so many stimulations from everywhere. It would help people AI would help a lot of people if they would just help people concentrate on one thing and just do it like that. So it would be.
I think the summary of that is probably because we are all distracted with so many. That's one of
Yes.
the demerits of social media. We are all always distracted. Attention seems like a hard commodity, and if we can
Yes.
figure out a way to, if we can figure out an AI which solves the attention problem, I mean, it's a hard ask actually, because AI is geared towards the opposite direction. They are trying to make you as distracted as possible because there are so many different AIs. Netflix is an AI, YouTube is an AI, and then Spotify has an AI, and then some people are runners. They use Strava, and that gives notifications that you haven't run today, and things like that. So for me, I would say I think OpenAI is doing a phenomenal job. I just want them to give references to all the answers. Like if they give answers, if they can give references at the bottom saying that this comes from there, then that solves like almost half of writing any new papers or researching anything, right? I think they've already done that. Sometimes they
it's
give
there.
references, sometimes they don't. But if they can,
You just gotta enable that web search feature. So whenever you do that, and whenever it generates content, it will give you references to where that was picked up from. It's already done actually.
So you have to update it as part of the prompt.
No, you just have the. It's like a button that you click on. It's like a web search button. So then it gets access to like the internet to retrieve information, and it'll give you a link. It'll give you a link for each line, stating where it picked it up from.
Oh, I think then I think I'll probably have to figure that out. A long time ago, I had this weird requirement of ensuring my socks are put in one place, and I couldn't figure out for a long period of time how to do that. And I thought there should be some way, and then I figured out an interesting way to fold one sock into the other, and that's how I figured out how to solve that issue. But I don't think AI is required in something as silly as that. But having said that, thanks all for joining, and hopefully we can continue these conversations. And if in the audience you have any questions, feel free to comment. We don't allow people to like or dislike, but we allow people to comment. So if you have any questions that you want to ask as part of this panel, please do so in the comment section. Thanks a ton for joining. See you next week.